Today I'd like to demonstrate a very interesting grand piano for you, made by Steingraeber and also in development with Michael Acker from the SWR Experimentalstudio in Freiburg. It's the Steingraeber Transducer grand piano. What you've heard at the beginning is actually not an acoustic piano but an electroacoustic piano. And this is something that fascinates me, interests me, has done for many, many years as both a performer of acoustic and electroacoustic music and an improviser with these instruments. What we have here is basically a Steingraeber grand piano, but with transducer microphones that also function as loudspeakers, placed within the soundboard of the grand piano. And at this point I should tell you that this is available for all Steingraeber grand pianos. You can apply this technology to all of the grand piano models. And Michael Acker will explain a bit more about the technical side of this in other videos along this series. I started this video with a piece that will demonstrate not only a kind of whole dynamic range of what one would expect with modern piano music, but also what I would expect as a performer and what hopefully you will also hear as a performer and composer or experimental musician, whatever your direction is. Something that an electronic piano cannot always give, at least in my experience. But here the beauty of this instrument is that the transducers are placed directly on the resonant soundboard of the grand piano and use that itself as a resonance chamber, as a place for reverberation, perhaps in some cases delay, as we'll see with other effects that you can apply to it. What you've heard also then is the software piano developed by Pianotech, also in collaboration with Steingraeber, which uses physical modeling to sample, in effect, different Steingraeber models, which is something I think you will find is very authentic. Another thing I should like to say at this stage is that perhaps some people might think of this as a gimmick. For me it's not. It's very much an instrument that you can work with, and that's very important because I don't want to work with instruments that I think have only superficial things to offer, but I can actually work in depth with this, which is again why I chose to start with this piece, and I'll play another piece which demonstrates this also adequately, but just in terms of the resonance of the piano. So what is happening here? There is a hammer stop underneath the keyboard here, which stops the hammers actually striking the strings. However, each note that I press is sent as a MIDI signal through to the computer software, which then plays back through the transducers an audio signal. So it's very much like a piano. With the beauty also you have the hammer feel of a real piano, so you really feel that you are articulating something on a piano. Just perhaps by way of comparison, so in terms of tuning, of course, you don't have the typical tuning problems of a piano. The tuning stays stable and you can switch between the two, and also as a sound comparison it really is playable. And that's also another important factor. If I'm playing on an instrument where I'm constantly thinking, it doesn't sound like a piano, how am I going to work with this? Then for me there's no performance, and you stop at the point where music gets exciting, and that's actually in making music and being able to shape dynamics and shape the sound. As a further demonstration of the quality of the piano sampling, the physical modeling, I'd like to play another piece which also deals with a lot of resonances, but it has a lot of subtle articulation in it. I think many of those of you who have perhaps played with electronic keyboards can know that you can play with most dynamic ranges from middle to extremely loud. And for some people that's probably the attraction of an instrument, that it can just present a very, very strong image straight away. I like to challenge instruments. I like to test them. I like to not break them, but to test the parameters of them, to test the borders of them and their limits. And this particular piece I think does just that. It has a lot of resonances in it, which I think you will appreciate will sound quite natural. Here we are. And after that I will explain a bit about some of the different presets that you find with the Pianotech software, because it really is a fantastic software where you can tune so many things to your own custom desires and your compositional and performance practice. So I hope you can appreciate why I chose that particular piece. Not only do you have resonances or pauses for up to 22 seconds in some places, which for me would be unthinkable with a normal sample piano. The sound just wouldn't be attractive, but here you have the beauty of a naturally resonating soundboard with it. And secondly, hopefully you can see from the video that I'm playing it like a piano. Otherwise, on a keyboard, it is simply not possible to articulate one of the key moments in the piece, where things shift in, well, not tempo, but feel, to be able to open up the piano. And if you're talking about that level of articulation, which is something which is electroacoustic, I'm used to that perhaps when I'm developing my own software patches and my own sound manipulation software, or parameters within that, but within a piano that's electroacoustic, that level of articulation is pretty amazing. And that on just a small Steingraeber grand piano, so if you can imagine it's on the larger 272 models, the effect would just be amazing. So, but here we're dealing with very contemporary, or rather relatively modern tuning of equal temperament. The beauty of the piano tech software, as I mentioned, you can have lots of different tuning systems within there. There are presets there. You can develop your own tuning systems. You can raise and lower the pitch depending on historical performance practice. And if I choose an example now, I'll demonstrate an example where I will show you a lower tuning of 415 Hertz, and then a normal contemporary tuning frequency with what's known as the Werckmeister 3 tuning system, which was a particular favorite of Bach, to demonstrate how different tuning systems have evolved. A very, very brief overview of 2 or 3 tuning systems in the history of recent music, at least the last few hundred years. But just to show you what this software and what the piano is capable of. The beauty of this instrument and its relation to software is that because MIDI signals are received and sent to the software and back to the piano, you can control lots of the parameters of the keyboard. You can actually define certain notes to program changes, parameter changes, etc., which make performance practice very, very easy. You don't want to be kind of, on a purely practical level, on a performance level, you don't want to be worrying about something here when actually you need to be focusing on the piano. So I can simply choose a tuning here, and the applicable preset is chosen there. So this is a toccata, the adagio part of the toccata in C minor, BWV 911 by Bach, with a pitch of 415 Hertz. So if I just play a few bars at the normal 442 Hertz, and then I will show you what that sounds like with 415 Hertz. With 415 Hertz. For performance historians, I think this kind of aspect is very important, to be able to play with historical tunings. For perhaps I wouldn't say the average listener, but perhaps the more discerning listener, or people who are interested in these types of things, you can see that it opens up a very different emotional quality and cultural quality to the music. And that's what part of music making is, if it's not the part of society and culture, and also the development of technology and tastes. And with this software, you can certainly do that all at the command of a piano with a natural resonance. So if we switch then to the Werckmeister, into the Werckmeister tuning, and I've chosen this particular piece again because we can see why perhaps, and again perhaps this is only supposition, but perhaps even for our ears we can see why Bach and his contemporaries or other contemporaries, and why people are still interested in these tuning systems, especially when we move from to more slightly sharp. And you'll hear things that will perhaps sound strange to your ears, but that's normal. Everything that you don't know sounds strange. That's why you should listen to it. I think you can understand why I chose this particular piece, simply because of the modulation between minor and major are particularly interesting in this, as I mentioned. They sound very, not natural, not even pure, but just very different, and actually they have a kind of nice rounder quality to them. So this was the Toccata, or the Adagio from the Toccata in Bach's 911, BWV 911, just to demonstrate this Werckmeister 3 tuning system to you.